Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we're going to unlock and fight the second super boss from the Future Mythos side episode. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So just like after the first Superbot fight, which is the EPS-014, you can come back to talk to Caviar in IDA Block L, and she'll talk to you, and obviously you'll talk to the mysterious future benefactor, which now will unlock the second boss. And keep in mind that it does tell you in this kind of clip where the boss is, but they do say it is going to be in Lala Dome in the future Garrelia, so you can definitely travel there and you will be able to walk through the fields and find it. So keep in mind that in order to access this super boss, you do not only have to obviously talk to Caviar, you will also have had to have beaten the first super boss, Murphy, in order to unlock the second one. Alright, so I will say this fight was a doozy. It is ridiculous how much RNG is in this fight, and yeah, I did not enjoy it one bit, although I will say that it was interesting with its mechanics, which I'll go over as we do the fight. Now, I will also say that a lot of the information that I used prior to this fight, and usually I don't actually spoil myself fight-wise with any information. However, this subreddit has a lot of information, and one of our subredditors did have a detailed post about what to expect with this fight. So I'll link that post below. Make sure, if you haven't already, definitely join the subreddit in order to learn as much as you can about the game. Extra resources are always good. So that being said, first phase is going to be two small worms. One of them is going to be weak to fire, one of them is going to be weak to earth, and absorbs all other elements. I haven't tried non-elemental, but I believe even with staff slam, which I did do in this fight, it absorbs. So technically, no elements other than the exact element you need is able to damage it. Also note that because of that, your bar doesn't actually charge AF and maintain AF during the AF unless you hit its weakness, because when it's absorbed, you get 0 AF charge. So keep that in mind when doing this fight, and I'll explain that and just demonstrate that later. It is very challenging in that sense. So I'm sure there are a lot of different methods for challenging this fight. As long as you bring a team that has one of each of the elements required, you're going to not be able to beat it straight out. So in this first phase, we definitely need 1 earth, 1 fire. I decided to go with Chio AS as well as Rosetta AS. Now, I know that Rosetta AS's DPS is not nearly that strong. However, she has some defensive capabilities, which are also very useful for this fight. And so this video is a little bit longer than some of the other fights I've had in the past, and I do apologize for that. I'm sure there are other methods that are much more quick. However, I think this slow and steady fight will kind of demonstrate at least the mechanics of what to expect, because if you see a really quick fight, you probably won't even know what the boss does. So that being said, the attacks are random, just like the moves are random, and it has 3 different moves that I've seen so far. One is a kickback move, which is random. One is an AoE physical attack, and one is an AoE magical attack. So keep in mind that I'm using AS Generith with its int down. That will help protect me against magical attacks, being that I am activating Magic Zone, which enhances magical attacks by 30% for everybody, including the enemy. Now, I will say that the DPS of the enemy didn't seem too difficult if you have some shields up. We obviously have our traditional Mara with Aurora Force as well as with healing. Note that each of those attacks can apply different statuses: pain, poison, stun, darkness. All of those are very annoying. However, the actual pain and poison damage after each effect is not nearly that damaging. Okay, so if you're wondering what my strategy is, I'm basically just wearing it down, trying to get multiple stacks of Days Array up, so that, remember, when she gets 3 stacks, not only do you get typed down 50%, she actually does additional hits based on the number of stacks. So at 3 stacks, she's going to do enough damage to kind of wipe out the one weak to fire, whereas AS Chio obviously can wipe out the weak to earth. Keep in mind that because it absorbs other elements, we are using the double edge in order to kind of single target, as opposed to using a more powerful Riki Conquest, which will essentially heal the other enemy, making the fight unbeatable. I also tried compositions with Garyu, and Garyu is good, but I wanted the other units on this team for different reasons, and so I decided not to do that. Keep in mind that AS Daenerys doesn't do anything except for support. He casts Storm Regen for int down, and if you look at my loadout for Grasta, he also has the occasional power down, which can help with the dual debuff. Remember that there's either physical, magical, or random kickbacks. And he also has Magic Cloak, which essentially, when you get attacked by an when he gets attacked by a magical attack, he can cast a medium heal, which is also very nice. Plus the fact that he's got a 30% type shield, which will help protect against those. So, remember what I said about RNG and how annoying it is? Take a look at what happened. Both of my mainline DPS that are required for this fight just got kicked back. Can't do anything about it, and so unless you use like those flash strike stats like Melissa teams or like AS Hardy teams, yeah, you're gonna run into a lot of RNG. Now, some people enjoyed the artificial spirit fights. I hated those because essentially you're gonna reset the fight over and over again until you can kind of get the optimal setup. Because sometimes you just lose, right? In this case, I won't say I spent too much time on it. I would say about 10 tries total until I got the right team comp and kind of just understood the mechanics of the game fight. Because reading some of the details of the fight has nothing to do. It gives you some insight, but certainly once you're doing a real life battle, like real life practice, oh man, there is some complicated thing. And you'll watch the piano playing on my AF later on, which is really ridiculous. I actually failed 2 or 3 times, and that actually led to my 10 tries because without doing it properly, well, you're just gonna screw up. Okay, so you can see now that with the double edge, I have set up the Horai Jewel for mental focus. We did get, of course, Rosetta kicked back, and so I don't want to kill the one worm before I kill both. Oh, one last thing I did mention. You have to kill both worms in the same turn. Otherwise, one will regenerate the other to full health, and you're going to start that agonizing challenge all over again. Okay, so at this point, we are very fortunate. They kicked back only AS Daenerys, and we have our 2 mainline DPS for this phase of the fight up front. You can clearly see that we're going to be able to wipe this one out. Desiree with enough stacks will kill that one, and Double Edge will kill the other one. You also want to make sure that you have certain speed timing. So depending on how you want to approach this fight, I wanted my AS Rosetta to be faster because I want to apply type resistance down. And in this case, her DPS is so low, I really did want her to act faster for things like Codex, which prevents one status immunity, as well as things like Prayer of Judgment will help protect against the physical attacks of the enemy. So you can see with enough shields, you're not taking that much damage from this. And this is the second phase of the fight. So you can see that after we killed the 2 small worms, it kind of merged into the big worm, and you had to take this one down. This one still rotates between weaknesses. The first wave, remember, was one was weak to fire, one was weak to earth. This one is now, one is weak, it rotates between fire and earth weaknesses. And I'm actually not sure if it starts randomly, as in randomly either earth first and then fire, or randomly fire then earth. I actually, during my different tries, it actually did start with different random weaknesses. And so RNG plays a part in this part as well. And just make sure you are well prepared. Again, got kicked back over and over again. Kind of sucks. But no problem. We Horai Jewel and then we Riki Conquest here. Note that we only use Riki Conquest because there's only one enemy. No problems about healing other parts of it. Okay, this phase was stupid. And I'm going to say that very nicely. I could say some swear words, but I'll keep it family friendly, so to speak. So, as you can see from the flashes up, they absorb, again, just like wave 1, different elements, and they are only weak to one element. Guess what? One is weak to crystal, one is weak to shade, and one is weak to lightning or thunder. And so your team must not only have one fire, one earth DPS, you'll also need at least one crystal, one thunder, and one shade unit. And so this part is very, very complicated. I'm going to use a large AF, and I'm going to use Clark to do damage to all 3 of them. And now, if you're wondering how the heck I'm going to do that, remember that Clark, back when we did the Mythos the first time, he got a Ring of Brilliance, his own personal armor. And that armor actually confers certain abilities to him, one of which you can choose the different element moves. Now, we do have Magmar, which is obviously his best move. It powers up his int and speed, and in Lunatic, obviously hits extra damage with the Mind's Eye and so forth. Remember that he actually does extra damage when in Lunatic against weakness as well. Very similar to Alter Dewey. Now, that being said, watch the piano playing and watch the bar drain down. We're going to target far left with the crystal move. We're going to move to this one and press the shade one, and then we're going to target this one and press the thunder one. Note that nothing charged, so if you miss those 3 moves, and keep in mind I had to move the cursor manually in order to press each of those 3 worms. Oh, guess what? You lost. So, yeah. Anyways, hopefully that demonstrates a little bit more advanced piano playing tactics. I'll have you know that I did actually learn piano for many years. My parents forced me, being that I'm from an Asian upbringing, so I have played some piano, although I don't think this is what my mom had in mind when I was going to play the piano as an adult. Okay, so 4th and final wave, note that we did bring it down to the 50% HP stopper in phase 2. The worm has come back and emerged. It will rotate between the 3 different weaknesses. And so you're just hoping that RNG treats you well in the fact that it rotates to the weaknesses you want. Obviously, in this case, we are looking for crystal weakness. We do have Eva brought to the front, and I will say that in this particular fight, I don't think Eva would be that useful. I mean, she is a little bit more security in that if you do get the crystal weakness, you can just activate her Lunatic and blow it out of the water that way. But I think that Clark is more than enough. Remember that his Lunatic, as most people's Lunatics, only lasts for 3 turns. However, as you'll see in my loadout, I actually equipped the power of Benefique Grasta on him so that we have a little bit more room to run with. 5 turn total, which is 2 plus 3. Just waiting for it to rotate into the crystal weakness. And so we had a couple of shots of Thunder. Even with Thunder and Lunatic, you can see I wore it down quite a bit. And now it's rotated to crystal. We have cast our setup move for Eva, which is the Glacial Veil. 90, we also using it as doubling as a heal. And we allow the Astro Drago, which is her DPS move, or one of her DPS moves, to kind of do a little bit more damage. And at the end of the day, you know who's going to kill it? It's not Eva, actually. It's going to be Clark AS, which is why, as powerful as units like Eva is, sometimes it just depends on what the setup is. And so, right there, blasted it out of the water. Magmar, just like before, has killed off another boss. I use AS Clark to kill off, for example, the Dragon God, I think from the Complex Dream, as well as the Terranivium Artificial Spirit, because it was weak to Crystal before Eva showed up. And so, yeah. He is awesome. Highly recommend investing red keys into grinding out his shadow. He is a powerhouse and he's a free unit too. So, very, very nice. Okay, so that was a long video. If RNG had played nicer, I think we would have gotten it done a lot faster. However, the fact that your DPS can get kicked back a couple turns here and there, it's very difficult to set up. And the first wave obviously was difficult with 2. You can see that the second wave, if they decide to just kick you back or a number of turns, and even the final wave, Clark AS got kicked back. Otherwise, we would have ended the fight a couple turns earlier too, right? So let me know in the comments below if you've taken this boss on, if you're going to take this boss on, and what you think. I hope that my strategy kind of illustrates what to expect. Again, I do apologize for the longer video. I just can't help the fact that RNG kind of screws around, and as you know from my previous boss fights, I really do prefer using a magic team. It has a little bit of everything. Physical shielding, type shields, int down on some units. You can obviously modify with high power down Grasta, or even Grasta Ore, which is occasional power down. And in this case, like I said, never really was in any risk of dying, at least in this particular fight. If I didn't use an AS Daenerys to int down, I think you're going to take a lot of damage because you, like I said earlier, you are enhancing the damage of magic attacks. And Magic Cloak, by the way, is extremely awesome. Alright, so after this, just go back to Caviar and just kind of clean up. She'll to give you some more insight, and you actually learn a little bit more about some secrets, I guess, that are implied in Chapter 3 of the Futures Mythos episode, which obviously you can finish that before fighting this. And you'll also kind of get a glimpse into what to expect in Chapter 4. They mentioned a few things, so I won't spoil it for you. I'll stop talking now and let you watch the rest of the video in peace. Obviously, the Super Boss also has some links to kind of some current pop culture. I'm not sure who this fight refers to. Like I said, the first fight was more of a RoboCop. This one, I'm not sure. But that being said, really enjoyed this episode. And Kirio's weapon did get upgraded as a result of beating this boss. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.